Welcome to another math video. We're working on word problems again. We got a word problem here, and remember that when we're solving word problems, we have to make our own equations. So we can solve this by substitution, we can solve it by elimination. Either method is totally fine. It'll depend on the equations that we end up creating because of the problem. So let's take a look at the equations here. It says when 20 bolts are placed in a box, the total mass is 340 grams. Okay, that's a total. That's going to be good for us to know. When there are 48 bolts in the box, the total mass is 760 grams. That looks like that's another total. That'll be good for us to know. Determine the mass of the box O and the mass of each bolt. That's interesting. So what they're asking us is they're asking us to find the mass of the box and the mass of the bolt. Well, we're going to have to develop some variables for this information. We would love to use B for box, but we would also love to use B for bolt as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the last letters of their words. You can use anything. You can use X and Y. You can use A and B. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to use X for box and I'm going to use T for bolt. So let's just define those straight out of the gate. X is going to be the mass of the box, and T is going to be the mass of a bolt. So now that we have that information, we should be able to define we should be able to describe our equations. So when 20 bolts, all right, 20 bolts are placed into a box, so plus a box, the mass is 340 grams. All right. When there are 48 bolts, no problem, 48 bolts, the total mass is 760. So plus a box is 760 grams. When I look at this, I don't know about you guys, but I see that the T's are lined up, the X's are lined up, the equal signs are lined up, and the constants are lined up. Because everything here seems to be lined up, well, I want to do elimination. That's what I want to do. That's my instinct. So let's do elimination. Let's subtract one from the other. 20t minus 48t is negative 28t. X minus x is 0. And 340 minus 760 is going to be 420. All right. So now what we can do is we can take, that's negative 420. Now what we can do is if we want to solve for t, we just have to divide by negative 28 and divide by negative 28. So t should be positive 15. Perfect. That wasn't a whole heck of a lot of work already just to figure out what the mass of one bolt was. So now that we found the mass of a bolt, what we're going to do is we are going to take that information and plug it into one of the equations at the top. It doesn't really matter, either this equation or that equation again. I'm going to plug it into the first one. So 20t, which is 15 grams, plus the mass of the box is 340. Well, 20 times 15 is 300 plus x is 340. So what this is saying is it's asking what number plus 300 will give us 340. If I subtract 300 from both sides, I get x is 40 grams. Perfect. So the last thing I want to do, the last couple things I want to do is I want to just double check. So if I use the top equation if I just use the top equation to find my x, then I have to use the bottom equation now to do my check. So I'm going to have to use this equation for my check. So 48t, which is 15, plus x, which is 40. Hopefully that's 760. And yeah, 48 times 15 is 720 plus 40, 760. So yes, 760 equals 760. Perfect. The last thing we have to do is we have to answer the specific question. Determine the mass of the box and the mass of each bolt. Well, no problem. I feel like we can do that. Each bolt weighs 15 grams and the box weighs 40 grams. Perfect. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.